In 1978, a man named George Fong ran a restaurant called the Golden Pavilion on Clement Street in San Francisco. He opened at 11 in the morning and closed at 10 at night, 6 days a week for 22 years. His chop suey fed 3 generations of the same families. His egg foo young was ordered by people who could not pronounce it, but never stopped coming back for it. When he retired in 2000, the menu went with him. Nobody saved it. That menu is what this video is about. Hi, my name is Jason, and this is Lost Asian Foods. Number 25. Chop suey. Nobody agrees on where chop suey came from. One story says a Chinese diplomat's cook invented it in New York in 1896 for American guests who showed up unannounced. Another says it was already being made in California gold rush camps in the 1850s from leftover scraps. The name comes from the Cantonese tia sap suey. Mixed pieces, that is all it ever was. By 1920, chop suey houses outnumbered every other type of Chinese restaurant in America. By 1980, it was already being called old-fashioned. By 2000, it was nearly gone. It did not disappear because it was bad. It disappeared because Americans decided it was not real Chinese food. But it was never pretending to be. It was always its own and its own thing fed this country for 100 years. Number 24. Egg foo young. A fried egg patty filled with bean sprouts, water chestnuts, green onions, and whatever protein the kitchen had, pork or shrimp or chicken, served under a brown gravy poured from a small ceramic pitcher on the side. 3 on a plate for $1.25. Every single Chinese-American menu from the 1940s through the 1980s carried egg foo young. Every single one. It was the dish your grandmother ordered without looking up. The gravy soaked into the white rice underneath in a way that was deeply, quietly satisfying. Then the brown gravy fell out of fashion. The dish got labeled fake and greasy and not worth serious attention. But stop for a second. Think about a fried egg patty with shrimp and water chestnuts under a warm, savory gravy. That is not a bad dish. That is a very good dish that got abandoned by people who stopped paying attention. Number 23. Pepper steak. Thin slices of beef, green bell peppers, onion and tomato in a sauce built from soy, oyster sauce, and a little cornstarch to give it that glossy coat. Served over white rice. That was dinner. Pepper steak appeared on Chinese-American menus sometime in the 1940s and never left until the 1990s, when it just quietly stopped showing up. No announcement. No farewell. It was simply there 1 decade and gone the next. The dish worked because the beef was cut thin enough to cook fast, and the peppers gave it a bitterness that balanced the sauce. The tomatoes went in at the very end so they kept some texture. Over a pile of steamed rice, it was a complete meal for under $3. Cantonese immigrants knew how to make beef stretch. 1 pound of flank steak fed 4 people when it was sliced thin against the grain and cooked fast in a screaming hot wok. Your grandfather knew that math without ever writing it down. Number 22. Subgum wonton soup. Subgum means mixed, multiple, varied. So, subgum wonton soup was a wonton soup where the broth was loaded, not just wontons floating in plain stock, but wontons alongside sliced roasted pork, bok choy, water chestnuts, bamboo shoots, mushrooms, and shrimp. Every bowl was crowded. Every bowl was generous. In Cantonese cooking, the word subgum described any dish that brought many ingredients together into one pot. Chinese-American cooks applied it liberally. Subgum shrimp, subgum fried rice, subgum chow mein. The word told you the kitchen was not holding back. This soup cost about $1.50 in 1975, and it was a full meal. Not an appetizer, a meal. The broth was clear and clean from hours of simmering pork bones. The wontons had thin skins and the filling had actual flavor. When restaurants started simplifying their menus in the 1990s to focus on dishes that moved faster and cost less to prep, Subgum wonton soup was one of the first casualties. Too many ingredients. Too much labor. Gone. Number 21. Sweet and sour pork with the red sauce. Not the version you get now, with the fluorescent orange sauce from a squeeze bottle. The original version. The sauce was red, a deep ruby red made from tomato paste, rice vinegar, sugar, and a little ketchup that nobody was embarrassed to use because it worked. The pork pieces were battered and fried until the outside was truly crispy, not just coated. The pineapple chunks and bell pepper went in at the very end. In the 1960s, sweet and sour pork was the gateway dish. It was the thing you ordered when you were 8 years old and your parents took you to the Chinese restaurant on your birthday because the menu was intimidating. It was the handshake between Chinese-American cooking and American taste. Sweet, tangy, crispy, meat, everything a child needed. The dish still technically exists, but the version that exists now is not the same. The sauce changed. The batter changed. And the idea that this was something worth doing carefully changed. The original was better. Your memory of it is correct. Number 20. Imu gu gai pan, sliced chicken breast with mushrooms, snow peas, water chestnuts, and bamboo shoots in a light white sauce. That was mu gu gai pan. The name in Cantonese means button mushroom sliced chicken. It is one of the most direct translations in all of Chinese American cooking. The name told you exactly what was in the bowl. This was the dish your aunt ordered when she was watching her figure, because the sauce was light and the vegetables were fresh, and there was nothing heavy about it. In 1972, that was considered the healthy choice at a Chinese restaurant. Mu gu gai pan required a kitchen that respected its ingredients. The chicken had to be velveted, soaked in egg white and cornstarch before cooking to stay tender in the wok. The sauce had to be light enough not to overwhelm the mushrooms. It was a disciplined dish, pretending to be a simple one. Nobody orders it anymore, because nobody knows how to order it. An entire generation grew up without seeing it on a menu, so they do not know it exists to ask for it. Number 19. Beef tomato. This one hurts me personally. I'm going to be honest with you. This is one of the dishes I grew up eating, and it is gone in a way that feels almost personal. Sliced flank steak marinated in soy sauce and a little sesame oil, stir-fried in a screaming hot wok with ripe tomatoes cut into wedges and green onion. The tomatoes broke down slightly in the heat, and their juice mixed with the beef marinade and created a sauce that no one planned but everyone loved. Served over white rice. This dish appeared on menus in Chinese-American restaurants in California and New York from the 1950s onward. It was weeknight food. It was the food a Chinese-American mother made on a Tuesday when she did not have a lot of time, and the tomatoes on the counter were just about to go soft. The version the restaurants made was the version the family kitchen made. That connection between restaurant food and home food is something that has almost completely disappeared from Chinese American cooking. Beef tomato was one of the last bridges. Number 18. War wonton soup. War wonton is not a standard Cantonese dish. It is a San Francisco Chinatown dish. The word war comes from the Cantonese wa, meaning smooth or slippery, referring to the texture of the wontons. The soup was a full meal in a bowl. It had wontons, roast pork, shrimp, sometimes squid, vegetables, and a broth that had been simmering since morning. In the old Chinatown restaurants of San Francisco, war wonton was what the workers ate. The cooks, the dishwashers, the servers, coming off a double shift. A big bowl of war wonton at 11 at night when the kitchen was closing down. Hot, filling, built from the best scraps of the day. If you were not from San Francisco, you probably never encountered war wonton soup by that name. It was hyper-local in a way that most Chinese American dishes were not. It belonged to a specific neighborhood in a specific city. When those restaurants closed, it had nowhere else to go. Number 17. Pork fried rice, the original takeout version. I want to talk about something very specific here. Not fried rice in general. The specific pork fried rice that came in a white paper container from a Chinese-American takeout restaurant and cost $1.50 in 1980 and tasted like nothing else on earth. The rice was always a day old. That was not an accident. Day-old rice fries differently. It separates. Each grain gets coated in oil and soy sauce individually, instead of clumping together into a wet mass. The pork was char siu, Chinese barbecued pork, diced small. The eggs were scrambled directly in the wok with the rice. The green onion went in last. That is the whole recipe. It sounds simple because it is simple. But the wok had to be hot enough to make the rice crackle when it hit the pan. That sound, the sound of cold rice hitting a screaming hot wok, that is the sound of this dish being made correctly. Most places make it wrong now. The rice is too fresh, the heat is too low. The char siu has been replaced by generic roast pork or just ham. The dish exists, but the dish is gone. Number 16. Almond chicken. Diced chicken stir-fried with celery, water chestnuts, mushrooms, and green onions in a light sauce, topped with toasted almond slices. That was almond chicken. The almonds were not mixed into the dish. They were added on top at the end, separately, so they kept their crunch against the softer stir-fry underneath. Almond chicken was a Midwest Chinese-American specialty. In Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, and St. Louis, in the Chinese restaurants that opened in neighborhoods where there was no Chinatown, no community of immigrants to cook for, just hungry Americans looking for something different. Almond chicken was on the menu. Every single one. In Detroit, almond chicken became so embedded in the local food culture that old-timers still talk about it the way New Yorkers talk about a specific pizza place, with reverence and with the particular sadness of something you cannot get back. The toasted almonds were the genius of it. That textural contrast, the crunch of the almond against the soft chicken and vegetables, is something no other dish on a Chinese-American menu offered. Number 15. Lobster sauce over anything. Lobster sauce contains no lobster. I need you to understand that going in. Lobster sauce is made from fermented black beans, garlic, ground pork, egg, and broth. It was called lobster sauce because it was originally developed as the sauce for lobster Cantonese. But somewhere along the way, it became its own thing. A sauce you could put over shrimp, over tofu, over vegetables, over plain white rice when nothing else was available. The fermented black beans gave it a deep, salty, almost funky backbone that made everything it touched taste more serious. The egg gave it a silky texture. The ground pork gave it substance. In Chinese-American restaurants from the 1950s through the 1980s, if you saw the words with lobster sauce on a menu, you ordered it. You did not need to know what it was. You just ordered it. That level of menu trust does not exist anymore, and neither does the sauce on most menus. Number 14. Chicken chow mein with crispy noodles. Not the soft noodle version. This is the version where the noodles were fried into a flat cake in a pan until the outside was crispy and golden, and the inside stayed chewy. Then the chicken and vegetable stir-fry was poured over the top, so the sauce slowly softened the edges while the center stayed crunchy. That texture transition, from crispy to chewy as you ate through the dish, was the whole point. The crispy noodle version of chow mein required more skill and more time than the soft noodle version. You had to fry the noodle cake evenly on both sides without breaking it. You had to time the pour of the sauce so it softened the noodles correctly. When labor costs rose, esaus and kitchen staff shrank. The crispy version was the first to go. The soft version was faster, and so it survived. The better version disappeared. Number 13. Barbecued pork strips, char siu as appetizer. Before char siu became a filling inside bao or a topping on noodle soup, it was an appetizer. Strips of Cantonese barbecued pork, lacquered red and slightly charred at the edges, served on a plate by themselves with a small dish of Chinese hot mustard and a small dish of duck sauce. That was how your meal began. The pork was marinated in soy sauce, hoisin, fermented red bean curd, honey, and 5 spice, then hung in a roasting oven and cooked until the edges caramelized and the interior stayed impossibly moist. The fat ran through the pork in ribbons, and the mustard cut through all of it. You ate 2 or 3 strips while you looked at the menu. By the time your soup arrived, you had already eaten your favorite part of the meal. That is the mark of a great appetizer. Number 12. Egg drop soup, the original diner version. Not the thick cornstarch-heavy version that sits in a steam table at a buffet. The original version was a clear golden chicken broth, brought to a rolling boil, eggs beaten and poured in a slow stream while the broth was stirred in a single direction, so the egg set into long, thin ribbons floating in the soup. A few drops of sesame oil on top, a scattering of green onion. That was it. The quality of egg drop soup told you everything you needed to know about a Chinese-American restaurant. If the broth was made from bones, and the egg ribbons were thin, and the soup arrived hot, the kitchen knew what it was doing. If the broth tasted like the powder at the bottom of a can, and the eggs had formed yellow blobs, the kitchen had stopped caring. Most places have stopped caring. The soup still exists under the same name. It is not the same soup. Number 11. Subgum fried rice. Everything I told you about subgum wonton soup applies here. Subgum fried rice was fried rice that was loaded. Day-old rice, stir-fried with roast pork, shrimp, chicken, Chinese sausage, egg, bean sprouts, water chestnuts, green peas, and green onion. Every single protein the kitchen had available went into the subgum version. For $1 extra over plain fried rice, you got everything. That dollar felt like the best dollar you ever spent. Subgum fried rice was the dish that told you the restaurant was confident. A restaurant that put 6 proteins in your fried rice was not worried about its margins. It was feeding you. There is a difference between a restaurant that serves food and a restaurant that feeds you. The ones that fed you made subgum fried rice. Number 10. Buddha's Delight, Lo Han Jai in Cantonese. A dish made entirely from vegetables and tofu and dried ingredients, traditionally eaten on the first day of the Chinese New Year to bring good fortune. No meat, no seafood, just dried lily buds, black fungus mushrooms, glass noodles, tofu skin, lotus root, ginkgo nuts, and whatever else the cook decided belonged. This dish required real knowledge to make correctly because every ingredient had a different texture and a different cooking time and had to be added to the pot in a specific order. The dried lily buds had to be soaked for hours before they softened. The glass noodles went in last, or they turned to mush. In Chinese-American restaurants that took their identity seriously, Buddha's Delight appeared on the menu every January. It was never the most ordered dish, but its presence on the menu meant something. It meant the restaurant remembered where it came from. Most menus do not carry it anymore. The ingredients are hard to source. The preparation is time-consuming. And customers raised on General Tso's chicken are not going to order a vegetable stew on purpose. But they are missing something that has no replacement. Number 9. Pressed duck. This is the dish that almost nobody under 50 has ever eaten, and I think about that fact more than I probably should. Pressed duck, hong siu ngap in Cantonese, was a whole duck that was marinated, steamed until fully cooked, then pressed flat under a heavy weight to compress the meat and force out excess moisture. Then it was battered and deep fried until the skin was shatteringly crispy and the compressed meat underneath had a dense, almost silky texture that bore no resemblance to any other duck preparation. It was served sliced, with a dipping sauce built from the duck's own juices and a little hoisin. This dish took 2 days to make, marinating, then steaming, then pressing overnight, then battering, then frying. A restaurant that put pressed duck on the menu was a restaurant that planned ahead, that took pride, that believed the customer was worth 2 days of preparation. The labor killed it. As kitchens got smaller and cooks got harder to find and keep, pressed duck was not possible anymore. The dish required too much of everything. It required a kitchen that cared deeply, and caring deeply became expensive. Number 8. Shrimp in lobster sauce. This is different from number 15, even though it sounds identical. Yes, it uses lobster sauce, but shrimp in lobster sauce is its own dish with its own specific preparation. The shrimp were left whole, shells often partially on, cooked in the wok until just pink, then finished in a lobster sauce that was looser and more abundant than the version served with other proteins. The egg and the sauce coated each shrimp individually. The fermented black beans distributed themselves through the sauce so that every bite had that deep, salty note. In old-school Cantonese restaurants in New York and San Francisco, shrimp and lobster sauce was a point of pride. Every cook had an opinion about the correct ratio of egg to broth in the sauce. That argument was a sign of a kitchen where people cared about what they were making. Order it now if you can find it. I am serious. Number 7. Paper-wrapped chicken. Pieces of marinated chicken, each one wrapped individually in parchment paper or cellophane, folded into a little parcel, and then deep-fried in oil. When the package arrived at the table, you unwrapped it yourself. The steam that escaped when you opened the parcel carried the smell of the marinade: oyster sauce, soy sauce, sesame oil, ginger, and green onion, concentrated and trapped inside the paper from the moment the parcel went into the oil. The chicken inside was impossibly tender because it steamed in its own juices inside the sealed package while the outside of the parcel fried. The marinade had nowhere to go, so it went into the meat. This dish required patience in the prep kitchen. Every piece of chicken had to be individually wrapped. A full order might have 6 parcels. A busy Saturday night service might require 300 of them prepped before opening. When that prep cook left and was not replaced, paper-wrapped chicken left with them. Number 6. Wonton soup, the old-school Chinatown version. Not the version with 3 wontons floating in a pale, flavorless broth that costs $12 and arrives in a bowl the size of your fist. The old version. The version that cost $1 in 1975 and came in a bowl big enough to be a meal. The broth was pork and chicken bones that had been simmering since before the restaurant opened. The wontons were made by hand that morning. The filling was pork and shrimp mixed together with a little white pepper and sesame oil. The wonton skin was thin enough that you could see the filling through it. 6 wontons in the bowl, a few leaves of bok choy, a drizzle of sesame oil on top. In the old Chinatown restaurants, wonton soup was the thing you ordered to judge the kitchen. Every cook knew this, so every cook took the wonton seriously. They were not made in advance and frozen. They were made that morning, and they tasted like it. The hands that made those wontons every morning are not working anymore. Their replacements have a bag from the freezer supplier. Number 5. Beef with oyster sauce. Sliced beef, flash cooked in a wok so hot it seared in seconds, finished with oyster sauce, a little soy, a touch of sugar, and nothing else. Served with steamed broccoli or Chinese broccoli on the side and white rice underneath. Beef with oyster sauce is the dish that separates a Cantonese kitchen from every other Chinese regional tradition. Oyster sauce was invented in Guangdong province in the 1880s by a man named Li Kum-shung, who accidentally reduced oyster broth too long and discovered the concentrated, sweet, umami-dense sauce that resulted. His company, Li Kum-ki, still makes it. You probably have a bottle in your refrigerator right now. But the dish that showcased that sauce, the simple, honest, direct pairing of good beef and good oyster sauce over rice, has become almost invisible on Chinese American menus. It was too simple at a time when simple stopped being valued. It did not stop being good. Simple and good are not the same as simple and boring. Your grandfather knew that. Number 4. Pineapple chicken. Yes, pineapple chicken. I am not going to apologize for including it, and I am not going to let anyone in the comments make me feel bad about it. Pineapple chicken was on every Chinese American menu from the 1960s through the 1980s. It was delicious, and the fact that it has become a punchline says more about food snobbery than it does about the dish. Bite-sized pieces of chicken, battered and fried, tossed in a sauce made from pineapple juice, rice vinegar, sugar, and a little ketchup. Chunks of fresh pineapple mixed in, and green pepper for color and bitterness. The acid in the pineapple cut through the fried batter. The sweetness balanced the vinegar. The green pepper gave you something green to feel okay about yourself. It was a completely coherent dish, and it worked perfectly. It is gone because people decided fruit in savory food was embarrassing. Those same people put mango in everything now, I am just saying. Number 3. Chinese chicken salad, the original restaurant version. Not the Applebee's version. Not the Wolfgang Puck version that every chain restaurant copied until the soul was completely gone. The original. The one that was on California Chinese American menus in the 1960s and 70s before anyone called it a trend. Shredded poached chicken, sliced cabbage, green onion, cilantro, toasted sesame seeds, fried wonton strips, tossed in sesame oil, rice vinegar, soy sauce, a little sugar, and dry mustard. Served cold. The kitchen took what they already had and built something that satisfied two traditions at once. The wonton fryer was already going. The cabbage was already there. That is not fusion. That is resourcefulness. It was smarter than it ever got credit for. It spent 30 years on menus before a chain restaurant put it on a laminated photo menu and killed it permanently. Number 2. Almond duck. I told you about almond chicken at number 16. Almond duck is a different animal entirely. Pun intended. I am allowed one per video. A whole duck was marinated in soy, 5-spice, and Shaoxing wine, then steamed until fully cooked. It was deboned carefully so the meat held its shape. The pieces were coated in ground water chestnuts and egg white, rolled in blanched whole almonds, and deep fried until the crust turned golden and the skin underneath shattered. The deboning alone required real skill. This was a banquet dish, served at wedding receptions and anniversary dinners, and in the private rooms in the back of old Chinatown restaurants that nobody under 40 even knows existed. Those rooms are locked now. The cooks who could debone a duck without destroying it are retired or gone. Almond duck lives in food writing from 50 years ago and almost nowhere else. Number 1. Chow yuck. When a dish disappears from menus, we tend to talk about the food. We talk about whether it was good or authentic or worth saving. We do not talk about the people who made it. George Fong on Clement Street made chow yuck every night for 22 years. He made it for the old men who came in alone on Tuesday nights and ordered the same thing they had ordered for 15 years. He made it because it was his, and because the people who walked through his door deserved to eat something real. When he retired, nobody learned the recipe. Not because nobody cared, because the world had moved on to caring about different things. Chow yuck means stir-fried meat in Cantonese. Sliced pork, bok choy, mushrooms, bamboo shoots, water chestnuts, bean sprouts, in a sauce built from pork drippings and oyster sauce, and just enough cornstarch to make it glossy. No single ingredient dominated. The pork and the vegetables existed in balance. The sauce was not the point. The harmony was the point. It was the dish the Chinese customers ordered when they came in, not the sweet and sour pork, the chow yuck. the dish that existed on the menu for the people who already knew. You had to know to order it. And when the people who knew stopped coming in, the restaurant stopped making it. Order the egg foo young without irony this week. Taste your wonton soup broth before you add anything to it and see if it was made from bones or from powder. Because these dishes were never about authenticity in the way that word gets weaponized now. They were about a community that crossed an ocean and built something new from almost nothing. Tell me in the comments which of these you remember, because these are not just dishes. They are the record of people who fed a country that was still deciding whether to accept them.